42. All right, we're going to get started tonight. We have we got some announcements, and then I'll take prayer requests. And then we'll start our Worship Wednesday here. Remember, this coming Sunday is our church potluck, so bring a main dish, side dish, dessert to share. We'll have that right after Sunday morning worship. Remember, directory pictures, if you need a new picture, November 17th or 24th. And I was asked to give added emphasis to this because there's some new people who get our directory and look through it to see who are these people, and prayer requests come out and they go, oh, we're praying for this person. Who is that? And then they look in the directory and it's a picture from 20 years ago. And they go, I don't think this person goes to church here. And so if you haven't updated your picture in a while, or if your kids have grown 2 feet between pictures, get a new picture, 17th and 24th. The ARP Christmas drive is started. If you would like to sign up to be a part of that, the sign-up sheet is on the Welcome Center. I see a bunch of names on it already, and that's something that our church always does a really good job at helping out in our community here. Ladies, remember the survey? I didn't actually go look at it to see if there's still copies in there, but I'm just assuming that there is. That if you didn't get a survey filled out for how you'd like to be involved in our ladies ministry at Ladies Day, there are extra copies on the ladies bulletin board right outside the men's restroom. Remember, teens, that the Gillette Youth Rally is this weekend, and they're going to be leaving the building at 8 o'clock in the a.m. on Saturday morning. And I think those are all the announcements that I have. Game nights is tomorrow. I go to every one. You think I would remember things like that, but it's just Thursday. But game nights is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We have snacks and games. Prayer requests. Missy. Pray for Missy's parents with the ongoing. Any other prayer requests? Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, my mom, she's 87, but she's been diagnosed with breast cancer, but it looks really beautiful. So, and she's always been a real upbeat person, but decide on treatment.
Okay. Remember Scott's mom? That's right, Libby. Scott's mom with the breast cancer diagnosis. Other prayer requests? Okay. Then we're going to have our first song first, and then we'll have our opening prayer, and then the rest of our songs.
That's my fault, Chris. So, did anybody else stay up later than they should have?
All right. I thought about adding another prayer request on there to help Steve keep his clothes on, but we want to be reverent, right? All right. I don't know if you know this or not, but hopefully you do. You could die today. It's kind of a sharp left turn into some morbid thoughts. But it's true, right? It is true. You could start driving home tonight and not make it. Your heart could just decide that it's had enough. If it's not that, Jesus could just decide to come back. Sitting with Linda Kefauver in that little hospital room for as long as I did, you think about things. Listening to the doctors, doctor after doctor came in and was explaining things to the family, and I had the honor of being there for that. And the doctors were perplexed. They don't know what happened. They can see the damage that was done, but why did this happen? Why going from just seemingly a cold, then to pneumonia, to all of these things that were happening? It's just like, how could this happen? And you walk away from events like that. That was not my first and will not be my last event like that. Really understanding the reality that life is fragile. We walk around every day just expecting things to happen, right? We expect our hearts to pump blood, and we expect our lungs to hold air and transfuse that into the blood. We expect our organs to work. We expect our brain to work. But the reality is that it is a fragile system. That just one thing being out of whack, gone haywire, can cause a cascade of things that go wrong. Life is fragile and life is short. And you might think that, man, this might be a little too morbid for a Wednesday night. But it's reality. That's the truth. In James 4:13 and 14, James says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes." A theologian by the name of Frederick Buechner said this about this verse. He says, "Intellectually, we all know that we will die, but we do not really know it in the sense that knowledge becomes a part of us. We do not really know it in the sense of living as though it were true. On the contrary, we tend to live as though our lives would go on forever." Tonight, I want to talk about, with all of that in mind, I want to talk about stress. Anyone stressed out? I got a good level of stress in my life. Maybe I should have asked this question yesterday, right? Talking about stress. This last summer, I was stressed out. Ava was getting married, which, for those of you who have gone through it, and we had a pretty short time to really get ready and So I don't know if that helped or hurt. It definitely made it stressful of trying to put together a wedding in 6 weeks. This summer, camp is always a thing. And it is a fantastic work. I love that work, but it is stressful. And that was just another layer to it all. This last summer, people that I had been working with and studying with started showing signs of losing their faith, and that it hits hard working with people for any amount of time, and then they, it seems like your labor was in vain. And right before camp, I started having some chest pain, and I didn't know what it was. I never had it before, and it kind of scared me. Like, why is there always this just dull pain in my chest? It wasn't there, a few months ago, and now it's there. What is going on? Went to the doctors, did all the tests. They, and, listened to my heart on the front side and the back side. They listened to the whole thing, and they said, you know what they told me? Sounds great. You know how frustrating that is? Be like, oh, your heart is great. And it's like, then what is this? And the doctor said, it's probably stress. And I go, oh. And that, for some of you, that might be an old thing, but for this guy, that was a new thing. That was crazy to me. Because as a young person, stress was not really a thing. I was usually a very carefree individual. I was the fly by the seat of your pants individual that would drive you planner people crazy. That's just who I was. No plan, no problem. We just went with the flow. Roll with the punches. And then I grew up, and I chose a profession that is kind of a serious profession. It is leadership is a large part of my job. People count on me. And the life of a preacher, this is not Chris complaining hour, just so you know. I'm getting somewhere. But the life of a preacher, if you've ever wondered what it's like, on the good days, on the best days, and those are most of the days, I live under this idea of, I can't believe that I get paid for this. I feel like I've cheated the system somehow. That I get paid to study the Bible myself and then teach it to other people. And it's like, how can that be a job? And I love it. I absolutely love it. But the life of a preacher is also living your life under a countdown. Sunday's always coming. There needs to be a lesson on Wednesday night. You got to have your Bible study ready to go on Sunday morning, and then the sermon. And there's the youth activities and the men's ministry and camp and youth rally and Bible study 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 and Bible study. And most days, I love it. And I think, I wouldn't want to do anything else. I think God's gifted me with certain talents and abilities, and that this is the perfect way, the perfect combination to use all of them at the same time. But it is stressful. And I thought to myself, God can see the intensity and the anxiety and stress that I'm feeling is all ministry related. And I worry because I take my job seriously. And so my stress is then justified. I'm allowed to have this stress. I'm allowed to have these anxieties because, well, God, I'm taking on this anxiety for you and your church. But then we read verses like Philippians 4, verse 4, where it says, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I will say it, rejoice. Right? We know that one. Speaking of verses that are songs, all right? And notice that it doesn't end with, unless you're doing something really important. It doesn't end that way. right? In fact, the verses go on, and by the time you get to verse 6, Paul says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God." When I am consumed by my problems, stressed out about my life and my family and my job, you know what I'm doing? I'm actually conveying the belief that I think the circumstances are more important than God's commands to always rejoice. In other words, I have the right to disobey God because of the magnitude of my responsibilities. In church, we are so quick to forget about God, aren't we? We are so quick to push His commandments aside, and I find myself having to relearn this lesson often. Even though I glimpse God's holiness, I'm still dumb enough to forget that life is all about Him and not all about me. I want you to think about, what if the history of the world was a movie? And you might say that the history of the world is a movie, Chris. It was made a long time ago. It's like, well, imagine if it was not made by Mel Brooks and like a true representation of life, right? God creates the world. Out of nothingness, He creates something. He breathes it into existence. And then He creates us as a part of that. Then mankind rebels against Him. His people rebel against Him, and He has to flood the earth. Several hundred years later, a man is chosen to be the father of God's great nation, Abraham, right? Later come Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and Moses and other ordinary and inadequate people who this movie is also not about. Then God leads His people into a new land to possess. He sends judges and prophets to help lead them, but the people can't seem to give Him the one thing that He asks for, obedience. And then starts this long cycle of obedience and blessing and disobedience and punishment, and it goes on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Still not getting the point. And then after that, right, through kings and prophets and plagues and famine and all of this stuff, there's silence. For hundreds of years, silence from God. It's almost as if it's like the calm before the storm, or it's like something big is about to happen. Something's coming. It's silent. And the climax of the story is that God becomes flesh. His Son is born from among people whom God still somehow loves. And that Son teaches and heals and works miracles. He loves those around Him, and because of all of that, He's killed. But that sadness is only for an instant, just as He predicted, He would rise again from the dead. And from that point on, His followers keep talking about Him. They all fail Him, time and time again, but He keeps forgiving, seeing that there is a bigger picture to all of this. And even though the movie hasn't quite ended yet, it's anticipated. He's given us a glimpse of us standing before the throne of God to be judged. Question. From start to finish, and that's the movie. And then roll the credits, right? From start to finish, who is that movie about? It's about God, right? It's about God. It's not about us, as it turns out. It's about Him. And now we play a part. We're in the movie, okay? You have just a small little cameo. I think I've talked about it before, of like if you did the math for all time and then shrunk that down to a 3-hour movie, your cameo would be 2/5 of a second. Okay? That's your spot. It's kind of like, I think of, if you've ever watched on Saturday mornings, the college game day, right? And we have all these people who are important talking about college football and the games that are going to happen that day. And then behind them, right, all those people at the desk, those are the main actors. And then behind them is all these just random people, right? And these people have signs. They have crazy signs, right? And just, wacky signs, funny signs. Some are serious. Some are they're just trying to, complain about something or be derogatory towards someone else. And I think that, that's our part in this movie, right? We're one of those people that is behind the desk and we're waving a sign, right? And the camera just kind of pans over us real quick, and that's all we get. That's all we got. What do you want your fraction of a second to be about? What kind of sign do you want people to see you waving? You want it to be an arrow pointing to yourself? It's all about me. It's all about me. Or would you rather have it pointed to something greater? Something more valuable? Something that's going to last? In 1 Corinthians 10:31 it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God." And so maybe right now, as you think about your life, maybe things are pretty good for you right now. And if that's true, if you're like, man, things are just going great, hold on to that feeling. Because those things don't last forever. Maybe God has given you this good stuff so that you can show the world a person who enjoys God's blessings, but who is still totally obsessed with God. Or maybe life is tough right now. Everything feels like a struggle. Things aren't going your way. In fact, you look at the other people around you and think, how can this person's life be going so good and my life seems like garbage? God has allowed hard things into your life so that you can show the world that your God is great and that knowing Him brings peace and joy even when life is hard. To be brutally honest, it doesn't really matter what place you find yourself in right now. Your part and my part is to bring Him glory. The point of your life is to point to Him, because He is everything. And so you might not make it home tonight. I pray that you do. I pray that we all make it home tonight, because that would be a terrible coincidence for the preacher to be talking about this and then someone not make it home. So I'm going to be praying hard for everyone to make it home tonight. But there's always a but. We're not guaranteed it. We simply aren't. And so with whatever time that God has given us, let's make our lives about Him. Steve, let's sing.